Okay, guys, we are back, and I've got an absolute legend. He's on again. It's been a while. Jamespearce, Liverpool correspondent for the Athletic UK. James, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Dave. Yeah, all good. Still on an emotional high after that dramatic day at Wembley on Sunday. Yeah, how are you doing? You okay?
Well, as we just talking there a few minutes ago, I watched it at home here with the nerves. Most of my hands were over my eyes anyway watching the game because it was absolutely most nerve-wracking 0-0 I've ever seen in my life. Extra time, and we all know what happened in the penalties. We're going to talk about it now in a minute. You were at the game. You were one of the lucky few that were actually at the game. What was your take from the game, other than my take was it was a huge boost for Liverpool winning it?
Yeah, I think first of all, it's probably the best 0-0 I've ever seen. I think if anyone had said to you beforehand, Liverpool and Chelsea would play out a 0-0 over the course of 120 minutes, you'd have thought, oh, it'll be a cagey, nervous affair and chances thin on the ground. But it was the absolute opposite, wasn't it? There was so much drama. Right from that unbelievable save that Mendy produced to deny Sadio Mane, to Mason Mount's two glaring misses, to Kelleher's fantastic saves from probably the pick of them were from Pulisic and then from Lukaku late on. The disallowed goals at both ends. Really really tight offside calls. And then the irony that two teams who couldn't score a legitimate goal between them over the course of 2 hours then couldn't stop scoring in a penalty shootout that looked like it was never going to end. And then, the guy who'd been brought on as a so-called penalty specialist ends up missing the one for Chelsea that sends the trophy to Merseyside. So, it was just, it felt, I think the League Cup, it is always the fourth in the list of priorities when you start a season. But I think, the way that that cup campaign had been, with so many young players involved and so many great little tales along the way, with squad players putting their hand up and contributing, it meant a lot. I think it meant a lot. You could see what it meant to the staff and all the players, the fact that they managed to ensure there was a triumphant finale. And we know that winning's a habit, isn't it? And when you have success, it makes you hungrier for more, and that has to bode well for the rest of the season.
I seen a Klopp in interview. You're probably at it yourself, and he was saying that this cup gave him so much pride, and for the very fact, as you just said, there were so many young lads involved, the likes of Tyler Morton and Conor Bradley, young lads, Kelleher. We'll talk about Kelleher now in a minute. All these young lads, Elliott coming back. The core focus of the team, the young lads all the way in the 20s, all the way up through. Some lads like the Caoimhin, the Origi goals, it all. I mean, I think this was a trophy for the club, the women's team. This was actually a trophy for the club and the city more than it was even for the first team, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think probably the most telling Klopp quote was, he said, what a journey this competition had been, and he said, what I love more than anything is it was a squad journey, because I think I checked back yesterday, and it was 33 players got game time en route from where we started off away at Norwich to Preston through to Leicester, and that two-legged semi-final with Arsenal. And it was a competition that really launched the Liverpool careers of lads like Tyler Morton and Cade Gordon and Conor Bradley. Caoimhin Kelleher certainly gone to the absolute next level in his career. Wow. Takumi Minamino, Liverpool's top scorer in the competition. Tsimikas played his part as well, as you mentioned. Origi there. Lots of guys there who didn't even get on the pitch at Wembley, and some of them didn't even get on the bench. Yet, Liverpool were indebted to them, the fact that they'd even got to Wembley in the first place. And I think, because that just epitomizes what Klopp is all about. This fact that no one's more important than anyone else. Everyone's in it together. No big egos, that spirit, that unity, that camaraderie. And, I think that League Cup success was the absolute epitome of all of that, in terms of so many different people putting their hands up at various times along the way. And even, when you think about just in terms of the goalkeepers, I mean, Adrian has only played once this season, but that was the game at Preston when he made a couple of big saves when that game was still goalless. Alisson, played one leg against Arsenal, and then Kelleher the rest of the League Cup stuff, and and now I know that the mural at Kirkby has now been changed to add Kelleher's face to it, which is then there's now 14 keepers on there, and he's right up there alongside those icons like Bruce Grobbelaar and.
Oh, I didn't know that. When was that done?
So that got done. That was a local artist called John Coleshaw. He got the call, and I believe he was down at Kirkby on Monday, updating that mural. So they wasted no time in all that. I think it's a fantastic idea. That was John Achterberg's idea earlier on this season. That he wanted something behind where the goalies kind of train and warm up.
Yeah,
to act as a source of motivation and inspiration, really, because the mural is, it's every Liverpool goalkeeper who's been part of a major trophy triumph, and it details exactly what they've won for the club during their time there, and obviously Adrian's already on there from the Super Cup a couple of years ago, of course Alisson as well, and now Kelleher has got his face on there, and. Yeah, that's richly deserved because he was absolutely immense. I thought, yeah. When you think, it was such a bold decision by Klopp because he will have known that the easy option was to play Alisson. Tuchel obviously reverted back to starting with Mendy, and if Kelleher had made a mistake that had cost Liverpool the final, then you can guarantee that. People with the benefit of hindsight would have said, well, that was why would you do that? Why would you not play your number one? But I completely understand why he played Kelleher, because I thought for a start, Liverpool have never looked weaker this season with Kelleher in the team. The biggest compliment you can pay him is that, at no point has he ever looked vulnerable or a weak link or anything. He's so composed. And, yes, the Wembley final was a big step up, but he'd still played massive Champions League and Premier League games previously. And, I think we saw on Sunday that Caoimhin Kelleher's got the mentality and the temperament as well as the talent to succeed at the highest level.
I know, and I actually do know John Achterberg. I do be Instagramming him, and he comes back to me a lot. He's a lovely lad. But they've added in another keeping coach, Taffarel, the Brazilian keeper. So they've a lovely little unit there. And I heard Klopp saying something as well about goalkeepers. They state to themselves, the goalkeepers union, as we call it, the likes of Adrian, Kelleher, some of the young lads, Alisson, we all know about him. But I think it's a weird for Kelleher, really, isn't it? I mean, he's not even Ireland's number one at the moment. Basuma who's actually on loan from Man City. I think he's playing for Portsmouth. But he is a proper goalkeeper. And for him, I think I had nearly an argument with a fella on the job today saying, why isn't he get a play in a Premier League team? Most Premier League teams, you get a starting lineup. But I mean, most Premier League teams, you're not going to get a league medal, cup medal around your neck, and you're not going to play big Champions League games, and you're not going to be involved in, I know he's 24 and he's got to be playing nearly all the time, but to have a number two as not outspoken, seems a quiet lad, Caoimhin Kelleher. I seen John Gibbons and some of the lads in Anfield Wrap did an interview with his team, his boyhood club down in Cork, actually, last week, because he knew he was playing in the final. But it's a perfect situation for Liverpool, really, to have two top-class goalkeepers, one world-class, we all know that in Alisson, but one really, really top-class goalkeeper as your second goal. It's not many clubs have that. We see what happened to Chelsea. Captain's a decent keeper, but they made the mistake of changing him, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But what do you think Kelleher should do? I mean, he's that age now, 24. I think he looks happy anyway. He looks happy where he is.
Yeah, well, and I think that was part of the thinking with Klopp in playing him in the final, was that you've got to make sure that the carrot is dangled so that he feels like he can get enough game time and he can achieve his aspirations and keep kicking on to the next level where he is. And, and because we're talking about such an unbelievable Liverpool team now, where, we almost now expect this team to compete on all levels, of course, Kelleher's not going to dislodge Alisson as number one, but, what an amazing position for the club to be in, to have someone like him as a number two. I can't think, when I wrap my brains trying to think if Liverpool ever had a more assured and confident and number
Number
two,
two.
I can't think of someone. And
there was always the drop off, wasn't there? A slight drop.
Yeah.
Oh, you're worried. Oh, he's playing today. Oh, a little bit worried there.
Yeah. And you know, and even when you go back, when Adrian got a fair bit of stick, didn't he? And the argument was always, well, when you've got someone who's as good as Alisson, it's actually quite difficult to attract, say, what you would class to be a really good number two, because you really good number twos want to go to a club where they think, well, actually, I've got a chance to be the number one. Now, Alisson is at such a good level, world class, top two in the world for me, that the keepers know, well, if I go to Liverpool, I'm not gonna play. But Kelleher has developed so much, and Klopp quite rightly, has been shouting loudly that I think he described Kelleher as a John Achterberg project, because he said Klopp himself wasn't 100% convinced. Going back a couple of years, he was still quite scrawny. I think Kelleher, in terms of you want a goalkeeper to have a physical presence about him. Yet over time he's really developed on that front, and developed in terms of, I think he just instills confidence in everyone around him. He's got a lovely mentality to him, which I think we saw. I think it was probably epitomised by the way he tucked away his own penalty. He certainly would have expected to have taken one. Had to take one himself.
Unbelievable! It was a great penalty, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the way he is. Nothing phases him in the end. He just goes about his business, minimum of fuss. You can see what a popular guy he is in the squad, and I certainly don't think he'll be going anywhere in the next couple of years, because I think I think that the play, even if he's just playing domestic cup competitions for Liverpool, I just think every day he's learning from Alisson, who is absolutely elite. He's learning from John Achterberg, from Taffarel, from Jack Robinson as well. There's no better place to keep developing. And in goalkeeping terms, he is still
He's young. He's young. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Of course, I think further down the line there will be a time when he does want to be a number one somewhere, but I don't think he has to rush that, because he's in a great place.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I have to talk about one man, and this guy has been like the League Cup, but this has been an even bigger boost for Liverpool. He came in January. Luis Diaz. Oh my God! I mean, even looking at him, I knew about him playing for Porto. I know Liverpool were interested in him and stuff, but coming in and fitting into that club, the way Klopp usually doesn't, a new signing, big signing, it takes a few weeks or even a month or two to settle them in. This guy was in and hasn't looked back, and it's as if he's been there 2 or 3 seasons. I mean, what have you been impressed by Luis Diaz? Wow.
Yeah, unbelievable impact. I think, probably like you said, then I just assumed when he came in that it would be a similar transition period to maybe we saw with Fabinho, with Andy Robertson, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. We've seen it time and time again where players have come in, and irrespective of how much they cost, Klopp has gone, well, no, we've bought you for the long term, not for, bought you for 5 years, not for 5 months. So we'll take our time. But I think Diaz's performances have just commanded that he's walked into that starting lineup, because, and it's interesting because he just, I think what for me it illustrates is how much homework and diligence Liverpool do when it comes to ensuring that they, people that are the perfect fit. Because this is a guy that speaks very little English. Pep Linders thankfully speaks Spanish and Portuguese. Yeah. Obviously, the Brazilian guys,
speak Portuguese.
The Spanish contingent at Liverpool help him with the language barrier as well. But it's, I think for a player, for a new language, new culture, new country, a new brand of football, really, to come in and hit the ground running like he has done has been
unbelievable.
Been fantastic. I thought he was Liverpool's best attacker at Wembley. I thought he caused Chelsea a ton of problems all day. He's just, he's the kind of player I just think you just pay to watch, because every time he's on the ball, you expect something to happen. He's
explosive. He's explosive.
Yeah, he really is. He's positive. He's direct. He goes for the jugular. He runs at defenders. He's not afraid to make mistakes. He knows that not everything he's going to try will come off. But yeah, he's. I think what we've seen already. When you think he's only been a Liverpool player for a month and he's already got a winner's medal in his pocket.
They've already got a trophy. They've already got a statue of him, for God's sake. But the thing about him as well, and I know you've been on Twitter about it, but with Diaz coming in, was that the thing though with Spurs, that because Spurs, I think there was another club interested that were ready to actually put the money on the table. Liverpool literally hit the button and went, "Listen, we got to get him right now. He's going to go."
Yeah. I think that was the thing, because Diaz was going to be a transfer target for the summer for Liverpool. That was always the plan. But suddenly I think, well, two things really. One, the fact that Liverpool have got a good relationship with Porto, and they were alerted to the fact that Tottenham were making a real big play to get him in January. So it was like, well, hang on a minute. Signing him in the summer isn't going to be an option here. We either go now or we don't go at all. And then also I think the fact that, Porto's demands were significantly lower, because I think when the rumours started at the start of January, I was told, well, you look at the release clause, and Porto were kind of demanding, I think it was about £65 million at the time.
Yeah, I seen that,
Yeah, and you think, and Liverpool were like, no, not
in
at that
January.
price.
Are they going to do it in January? Probably not.
Yeah. But then I think when it suddenly became apparent that you could get him for, what is it, 37.5 million guaranteed, potentially rising to 50 million. That was when Liverpool moved incredibly fast and got the deal done. And
there was other issues with Porto. What didn't Porto owe us money? Or there was an issue with Guric. There was also an issue that they needed money in something like 48 hours to pay you away for something. There was some sort of issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that was another factor as well. The fact that they had this, they had this bill that they had to pay to UEFA to avoid sanctions coming their way on that, and Liverpool were prepared to just give them that cash in one lump sum to ensure that they were able to do it. So, as you said, there's been decent relations with Porto. Of course, Pep Lijnders used to work there. You got the Grujic factor as well. I spoke to Marco Grujic shortly after the deal went through, and he was absolutely raving about Diaz. And you think to yourself, is he just saying all this because he's his mate? Is he really as good as Marco Grujic is saying here? But you know what? Marco Grujic was absolutely spot on, because he said to me, he said, mark my words, he said, this guy is going to light up the Premier League. He said, ability-wise, personality-wise, he said, in terms of his style of play, the perfect fit for a Klopp team. Interestingly, because I think his numbers had gone up massively this season in terms of goals and assists for Porto. And but Grujic said the biggest difference he's seen in him had actually been his work off the ball, in terms of hassling and harrying defenders. And that intelligent pressing, knowing when to go, when not to go. And I think we've seen that in the last month. I think the stats show that no other Liverpool attacker has retrieved possession as many times as Diaz has in that period. And it just gives Klopp such a fantastic position to be in. Obviously you've got Firmino still to come back from injury, and you've got suddenly you find yourself with for so long we talked about it being a front three, didn't we, that no one could break into. Then you've got Jota and Diaz on top of that. You've still got Minamino and Origi as well. that is serious firepower.
We're going to need them, James, because just before we go, we're going to actually say it's the business end of the season. We've 3 months, 1st of March today. So March, April, May. I mean, we've the League Cup in the back pocket. First trophy. I think it takes a lot of pressure off us as well. Trophies there. That's but we want more. We want at least one, maybe four. Now the quadruple's hard to do. No one's done it. I heard Klopp saying something today. That's a reason no one's done it. It's so hard to win. But you just never know. I think a lot of stars are aligning for us. Players are coming back from injury. Full squad. The likes of Diaz just giving us a huge boost. Even the weekend could have went either way. To be fair, toss of a coin, that penalty shootout, it went our way. And you've seen the fans, the energy. You were there in Wembley, and even the fan base. You can see it on Twitter slightly changed to the way it was pre-Diaz signing. As you've seen it yourself on Twitter, it has been terrible. But just before I go, did you hear anything on Thiago injury, hamstring injury or something like that? Did you hear anything more about that?
Yeah. Thankfully, the scan proved that it was just a minor problem. So no Thiago against Norwich on Wednesday night. He's expected also to miss the West Ham game on the weekend.
Yeah.
But he could be back for Inter Milan midweek next week. So I think obviously when it was devastating for him to miss the Carabao Cup final, you could see what it meant to him having to sit out a major final, especially because he's been in such great form. But thankfully it was only minor, and he'll be back soon. And you can guarantee he'll have a massive part to play in the next few months.
Who's that? Is that a little Baba in the background? Hello. But listen, we're going to leave it there, James. Thank you very much for coming on. I hope to get you on maybe at the end of the season when we have 4 trophies in the cabinet. You know what I mean? But Jamespearce, thank you. Talk to you soon. Stay safe, you and your family, and enjoy the rest of the season. Cheers.
Cheers, Dave.